How we doing, YouTubes? Streets of New Capenna has been out for a couple weeks now. We've done our pre-release. We've probably opened our box or a majority of the packs that we're going to get up to this point. At least I have. And now I'm in the mindset of what cards do I absolutely need to make sure I get for my collection to either put in my current commander decks or add to new ones I'm going to be building. And I thought, why not make a video about it? Because every set that comes out, I kind of go through this process of playing the pre-release or multiple if I can fit them in, buy a bundle, buy a box or two, and then what cards did I procure, what cards can I trade for, and then which ones am I still missing or needing for said commander decks. So the first place I always start is the Mythics. These are the cards that I absolutely have to make sure I get a copy of. I do also toy with the idea of, are we going to see the prices drop more? Are we not? But usually that first month post-release, sometime in that window is usually when the cards are the cheapest if you're wanting to play with them in the near future. Of course, if you're willing to wait years for them, they could tank, they could get reprinted. At this point, I want to play with the cards, right? I just want to make sure I get them in the not so distant future so I have time to play with them before they get overshadowed by other pushed cards. So, okay, first one, Elspeth is fine. First card I absolutely have to have, Halo Fountain. I just love this card because it's fun, little janky creature creation. It can be a card draw if you kind of need it. Only being 3 mana and able to be activated right away is really nice. But being an alternate win con, to me, that gives it that kind of value that will always be present and always be a factor and just something that's fun to build around. And the fact that you can get it for sub 10 bucks, not too shabby. Really, the next card I got to make sure I have is Urabrask. He is in my, well, I just built Prosper this weekend. We did a lot of spring cleaning. Actually feels really good to kind of take some decks apart, do some spring cleaning. But Urabrask absolutely has a spot in Prosper. I just don't have Urabrask. So I got to buy this one from the Card Kingdoms. Another one, sub 10 bucks, which is super nice. Get one for a few bucks. There for it. The next one that I absolutely have to get is Bootlegger Stash. I did not open one of these. And now the price has been ticking down to that sub $30 mark, and I think you can get the alternate art, which looks so much better from Card Kingdom right now for 30 bucks, which is like you can get Bootlegger Stash, Urabrask, get that shipped off for free. That's probably what I'm going to be doing here sooner than later. Anyway, Bootlegger Stash, there's just too much fun potential with this card. It's actually not all that exciting, 6 mana to do nothing, but once you untap with it, you're going to be having some fun. You, probably not your opponents, but you. Next, Titan of Industry, not overly worried about. Vivian of the Hunt is a card I'm happy to have in my collection, not one that I would say is a must include, but other ones that are must includes, I like all 5 of these Demon Lords. The one I'm 100% building is Falco. Jetmir is going to be going into Ginny Faye, and then Rafine is like the real deal. Rafine is the card that people are wondering, is this going to be the one that makes it even like into CEDH? Is it going to be constructed playable? I feel like when you play with Rafine, you realize attacking with 2 or 3 creatures and having a single creature connive 2 or 3 times is pretty nuts. That's a card I absolutely want to make sure I have. Zayatora is going into Corvold, and then Xander. I'm just not a big Grixis player, but if you want to get him, I think now's the time, because I don't see him just going lower than $4 or $5 as well, because that's just the price for a decent Mythic nowadays. And then Ob Nixilis, if you want it, I don't think it's going to get any cheaper, because it seems to just be finding more homes in constructed decks. And at 25 bucks, I could see it just maintaining that price for a while now, especially with its casualty and ability to make tokens that aren't legendary. Like, I could just see that ability continuing to get better. While I have not pulled this, I'm going to be doing everything I can to either trade for it or buy list enough stuff to then buy one of these copies. So for the Mythics, there's definitely a handful that I still need to procure. The next I check out are the rares. And I don't think there's a lot of rares that you want to make sure you add to your collection from a commander deck standpoint. One, though, is definitely Giada. Giada is awesome. You can either have her be the commander or just in the 99. But in the commander, I think she's actually like the best mono white angel commander printed, because you can play her turn 2, and then essentially every creature you're playing after that gets better, is a bigger threat. She helps ramp you a little bit in white for your angel creatures. Just really like her, and she's, again, still everything like that's we're looking at. They've Bootlegger Stash and Ob Nixilis are sub 10 bucks, so we can get her $3-4 bucks, and she's actually finding a home in a few decks as well, so I could see her price going up a little bit, not a ton though. The next card, if you're like me and you love token decks, Rabble Rousing, 100%, gotta have one of these in your collection because it's so good. And then Ledger Shredder is another one I 100% want to have at least one of in my collection. I'm not playing a lot of constructed outside of Commander, so it's not something that I'm needing 4 copies of and whatnot, but 1 copy would go a long way. I'm also not someone that likes to play the same card across multiple decks. Really, just having 1 copy would be nice for the deck that is going to need it. Or maybe I will build Rafine, because why not? You know? And then Jaxus is another card that you want to have, but if you bought a box from your LGS, then you get it as the buy a box promo, which is pretty sweet. Professional Facebreaker is another card that I think if you don't have a copy of, you're going to want it, because the fact that it just helps you make treasure, there's so many treasure synergies being printed. Wizards cannot help themselves. Print more treasure synergies. Professional Facebreakers, one of the awesomer monocolored cards for it in red, because you can also then use those treasures for essentially card draw by exiling cards from the top of your library that you can play that turn. It's just an ability that's going to continue to get better as time goes on. Ginny Faye is probably my next one you gotta have if you're going to build a token deck. Like I said, I love token decks. Ginny Faye is awesome. And then outside of that, I'm not really like, you gotta have any of these. Of course, the Triomes, the Demon Family Lounges are nice. But outside of that, I think there's a ton of rares that you absolutely have to make sure you get. And then uncommons, I think there's like 2 that I wanted to make sure I had at least a copy of, which if you bought a box, of course you're going to have these. But if you only played in a pre-release or 2, maybe you're still needing a copy. An Offer You Can't Refuse, I think, is a card that's just going to continue to find home in constructed decks, and is always a card you're surprising your opponents with. If you're one of those blue players that wants to have answers as cheaply as possible, a 1-mana counterspell's always going to be worth a couple bucks. Not a bad idea to pick one of those up, especially if you're like me and you're buying from Card Kingdom and you need to find a way to get to 35 bucks. I usually throw in like a Soul Ring or Arcane Signet, because you can always find decks for those. But in a new set, you grab that uncommon or common that is only a couple bucks, Riveteer's Charm. You just want to make sure you got like one cool copy of it. Maybe pick that up now just in case there is a run on it, or they see the potential in constructed. I'm not sure I'm sold on that though. But all in all, that's it. I don't think there's any commons that I'm worrying about that I absolutely must pick up, but I would love to hear from you in the comments. If there's cards that you're like, no, if you're sleeping on this card, you're making a mistake. Again, if you've bought boxes, you're going to have at least one copy of every common in the set. But New Capenna, I think there's a handful of mythics that everyone's going to want to make sure they get. Handful of rares you're going to want, and then the uncommons and commons, maybe there's 1 or 2 you want to make sure. Actually, these family sack lands are pretty sweet, or the family fetch lands. I don't know what we're calling them, but I call them the family fetch lands. I think they're actually pretty awesome. Oh, duh. And then I'm going to forget the whole commander. Like if you're just buying singles, if you didn't want to buy all the precons, if you're buying singles of the commander precon cards, for me, I'm 100% buying a copy of the Beamtown Bullies, because I absolutely love their game plan. I'm just finding myself as like a Jund player. A lot of red-green in all of my decks that I've built lately. Can't help myself. But big fan of the Beamtown Bullies. I'm actually kind of sad that the Grand Crescendo has just shot up so much since release. But that could be a reason to maybe at least grab a copy of it, because this card is absolutely nuts, and I don't see going down anytime soon. Another one, if you're a huge fan of treasure decks like I am, Reign of Riches is a card I'm going to buy a copy of if it's sub 10 bucks, which it is currently. It doesn't do a lot when it ETBs, but the fact that it's going to give all of your first spells each turn cascade when you use those treasures, to me, it's like that chaos. It's that chaos of not perfectly tuned, but still super fun. And yeah, Reign of Riches is a copy I think you absolutely want to add to your collection, because I think it's only going to get better and thus more valuable as time goes on. If you like tribal decks, you absolutely got to add a copy of Cyrix, because Cyrix is probably not going to go up in value a ton, but I also don't see it going below a buck, because it's only currently found in those certain booster packs and precon, and it's a tribal leader that we've been waiting for a long time. And at a buck, like, you're never going to kick yourself for buying a card for $1 or $2. You know, you're just not. And then Jolene's a card I might probably buy 2 copies of, because I've just got so many decks, and I think my wife's going to want a copy of her for one of her decks. And then lastly, Mari is just awesome. I like the hit counter thing. I think hit counters will keep popping up here and there, you know, ever so slightly. And she's only $1 as well. So if you can pick her up for $1, and then you're going to end up making a rogue deck or a sweet assassin deck at some point. I'm always hesitant to buy cards that I'm not going to immediately use, but I also like to have a little, you know, pocket of cards off to the side of, once these get more support, I'm ready to run with it. And this feels like one of those cards that I want to make sure I have off in my pocket of blue-black assassins. And then the last one is Benny, but Benny's, I don't know if I'd say Benny's you must add. It's just more white catch-up type cards. Like, these are the pushed white cards and support white cards that we've been waiting on, and Wizards is finally printing. But outside of that, I don't know, I really like these precons. The more the time's gone on, the more I've enjoyed them. I think there's a handful of cards you do want to buy, but if you've also bought the precons, then you're good. You're set. You got all the ones you want. Life's good. But again, let me know in the comments, are there any of these that you're looking to buy, or I'm overlooking their ability to just keep going up in price? That's going to do it for me, folks. That's my informal list of commander cards I'm absolutely buying a copy or 2 of for my collection, because I've already got a home for them, or I'm brewing some decks as we speak. And I think now is the time to pick those up, because we're kind of in that lull of everyone's done their mass openings and prices are as low as I plan on them to be. I mean, I don't lose too much sleep over it, but I think now is a good time. So if you're going to buy them, check out Card Kingdom, use my affiliate link, be much appreciated. Let them know I sent you. Would just go a long way. Would really much appreciate it. So yeah, and of course, let me know in the comments if I'm needing to look at some cards that I've forgotten about. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.